Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be breaking down the NBA slate for Monday, March 20th. We've got a 7-game slate on for this Monday. A lot of good games on this slate. It looks like this slate's going to be pretty high scoring. A lot of these games have pretty high totals and look like they're going to be close games, so I really like this slate. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, starting off at point guard. Your top point guard on today's slate is Russell Westbrook. He gets a really good matchup at home against the Warriors. I really think Westbrook's going to come out firing for this game. He always gets up for these games against the Warriors. And with no KD, I feel like this game's going to be very close. I think the Thunder could actually win this game. And at $64, I definitely think Westbrook is in play, especially on Yahoo. He is way too cheap. And I like him for tournaments and cash games. He could absolutely go off in this game. If this game is competitive and it stays close, Westbrook could go off for 70 to 80 fantasy points. And his price is pretty cheap on Yahoo. He can easily return value on that salary. So I do like Westbrook, especially on Yahoo. He's way too cheap. I'm not sure what his price is on other sites, but on Yahoo, I'm definitely going to be playing Westbrook. He is the top stud on this slate, in my opinion. I think he comes out firing against Golden State. He always gets up for this game. So I really like Westbrook on the slate. He's going to be the stud that I target. And for $2 cheaper, you do have James Harden at home against Denver. Harden gets an equally good matchup. Denver really struggles defensively, and this is going to be a very fast-paced, high-scoring game. Also really like James Harden on this slate, but if I'm playing Yahoo and I'm choosing between them two, I would much rather just find $2 and get to Westbrook. I'm not sure what the price difference is on other sites, but on Yahoo, for just a $2 difference, I would much rather have Westbrook. But Harden is definitely in play. This is a terrific matchup. And when these teams just played a couple days ago in Denver, Harden went off and he scored 40 points and had a triple-double and put up 64 fantasy points. He could easily repeat that stat line. So I also really like James Harden on this slate. He is also definitely in play. Steph Curry against OKC. I really like this matchup for Curry, but I'm not going to be playing him on Yahoo. He is way too expensive at $53. But Curry is definitely worth a look in tournaments. He'll get up for this matchup. He likes to come out firing against Russell Westbrook. So I do like Curry in tournaments. He could go off, but for cash games, I don't think it's very likely that he returns value on that salary. So I'm not going to be playing Curry on cash at Yahoo, but he's worth a look in tournaments. He could get hot and go off in this game. For $3 cheaper, you got John Wall against Boston. I really like this matchup for Wall. Isaiah Thomas is currently questionable for this game. He is hoping to play. If Thomas plays, I think that really helps John Wall because Isaiah Thomas is a really bad defender. But if Thomas is out, then Wall will most likely be guarded by Marcus Smart, and Smart is a pretty solid defender. So I feel like that's just a wait and see. If Thomas is out and Smart gets the start, then I probably won't be looking at John Wall. But if Thomas does play, John Wall could absolutely dominate Thomas. So I do like John Wall if Isaiah Thomas plays and Thomas is guarding him. For $2 cheaper, you got Isaiah Thomas. Like I said, he is hopeful to play in this game, but even if he does play, I'm not going to be targeting him on Yahoo, especially not at $48. I think he's way too expensive. So I won't be playing Thomas on this slate. I think he's way too expensive. I would much rather just find $2 and get a John Wall if I'm attacking that price range. Or I would just pay down the $3 and get a Kemba Walker at home against Atlanta. Atlanta really struggles against the point guard. They're one of the worst teams defensively against the point guard. But I'm not a big fan of Kemba's price on Yahoo at $45. I think that's a little expensive. He has to get close to 50 fantasy points to return salary on that price. And he hasn't been doing that lately. He's only put up 50 once in his last 4 games. So I'm probably not going to be playing Kemba on Yahoo. I think he's a little bit too expensive at $45. I'm not sure what his price is on other sites, but probably won't be playing him on Yahoo. He's way too expensive in my opinion. For $1 cheaper, you got Chris Paul against New York. I doubt I'm going to be playing CP3 either. Chris Paul's really been struggling lately. I'm not a big fan of that price tag either. If I am paying that price for a point guard, I would much rather have Kemba for just $1 more, but I doubt I'm going to be targeting either of them. I think both of them are a little bit overpriced. At the mid-range, you got Dennis Schroder against Charlotte. I'm not a big fan of this matchup for Schroder. Kemba's a pretty solid defender, but I do like Schroder's price tag on Yahoo at only $29. He only has to get about 30 fantasy points to return salary. And even in this bad matchup, I do think Schroder can return value, so I do like him. I think he's a little bit too cheap. He can get 30 fantasy points, which is good for his price, so I do like Schroder. $2 cheaper, I do also like Elfrid Payton against the Sixers. Payton has been playing very well as of late, and he's pretty cheap as well at only $27. In his last 5 games, he's put up 29, 33, 45, 24, and 36 fantasy points. And this is also a very good matchup. The Sixers really struggled defensively against the point guard. So I do also like Payton at the mid-range on this slate. I think he can easily pay off his price, and he can go off any game. Payton does have really good upside as well, so I like him for both cash games and tournaments, especially on Yahoo. He's way too cheap on Yahoo. He can easily pay off his price, and like I said, he does have really good upside, so I do like Payton on this slate. Jeff Teague against Utah, not going to be going there. That's a really bad matchup. Derrick Rose against the Clippers, not going there either. D-Rose is going to be guarded by Chris Paul, and Chris Paul is a really good defender, so I'm not going to be targeting D-Rose. Also like Marcus Smart against Washington if Isaiah Thomas does not play. With Thomas out, Smart has been getting the start at point guard, and he's been playing pretty heavy minutes. So if Isaiah Thomas is out for this game, you can definitely look towards Smart at the mid-range. This isn't a great matchup against Washington, but Smart's just way too cheap. He'll get the minutes, and he can easily pay off his cheap $20 price tag. So I do like Marcus Smart if Isaiah Thomas is out. And if you need a cheap point guard on this slate, I do like Jameer Nelson against Houston. Nelson's pretty cheap on Yahoo at only $16. That's pretty cheap for him with the way he's been playing. In his last 5 games, he's put up 22, 17, 22, 27, and 40 fantasy points. With that $16 price tag, he only has to get you about 25 fantasy points to pay that off. And when these teams just played March 18th, Jameer Nelson had 40 fantasy points and played 39 minutes. Obviously, there were a bunch of injuries for the Nuggets. Some of their guys are getting healthy, but Gallinari and Wilson Chandler are both questionable for this game. If they come back, then I'm probably not going to be targeting Nelson, but if Gallinari and Chandler do not play, then that's going to give Nelson a little bit extra run. He should play a few more minutes. So if Chandler and Gallinari are out, I think you can target Jameer Nelson on this slate for value, especially on Yahoo. He's pretty cheap there. He can easily pay off that cheap price tag, so I do like him. If Gallo and Chandler do not come back for this game, they're currently questionable. But yeah, that's pretty much it for point guard. Let's go and move on to shooting guard. All right, your top shooting guard on the slate is Bradley Beal. He doesn't get that great of a matchup against Boston. Beal's going to be guarded by Avery Bradley, and Bradley is a really good defender. And I'm not a big fan of Beal's price tag either at $36. I think that's a little expensive for this matchup. So I'm not going to be targeting him on this slate. I don't think he's worth targeting. Klay Thompson against OKC. I do like Thompson for tournaments. OKC really struggles defensively against the shooting guard. And you know Klay Thompson does have insane upside. He can go off any night. But for cash games, I think there are other guys you want to target, but Thompson is definitely worth a look in tournaments. He could get hot in this matchup and go off, but for cash games, I think there are other guys you should target. For $1 less, I do like Nicolas Batum against Atlanta. One thing to take note of, though, is Batum is coming off an injury. He isn't playing with a minutes restriction, though. In his first game back from injury against Washington, he played 27 minutes and put up 24 fantasy points. He gets a really good matchup against Atlanta. They really struggle against the shooting guard. I do think you can pay up for Batum on this slate. I think he can pay off his price tag given this matchup against Atlanta. Like I said, they really struggle against the shooting guard. So I do like Batum on this slate. If you're wanting to pay up a shooting guard, I definitely think he is in play. Avery Bradley against Washington. Don't think I'm going to be targeting Bradley on this slate, not at $25. I don't really like that price tag. But if Isaiah Thomas is out, then that means Bradley will get a little bit more extra usage. He'll take a little bit more shots offensively. So I think he's worth a look if Thomas is out, but if Thomas returns for this game, then I'm definitely not going to be playing Bradley at $25. At $1 cheaper, you got Victor Oladipo against Golden State. I don't really like this matchup for Oladipo. He's going to be guarded by Klay Thompson, and Thompson's a pretty solid defender. But aside from Oladipo's last game against Sacramento, he was playing very well, scoring 31, 34, 32, and 31 fantasy points. And he is pretty cheap on Yahoo at only $24, but I don't think I'm going to be targeting him on this slate. I think there are other guys at the shooting guard position worth targeting, but Oladipo is very cheap. He can return value on that salary, so he's worth a look at the mid-range if you need a mid-range shooting guard. Also like Gary Harris against Houston. With all these Nuggets guys out, Harris has really had to step up, score the ball more, and play heavy minutes as well. He's been playing over 30 minutes every night in his last 5 games. And he's put up 16, 36, 31, 28, and 30 fantasy points in his last 5. I'm not a big fan of that price tag at $21, but with the way Harris is playing, he is definitely in play. This is a really good matchup against the Rockets. They played at a very fast pace, and they really struggled defensively against the shooting guard. So if you need a mid-range shooting guard on this slate, I definitely like Gary Harris. But take note of Wilson Chandler and Gallinari are questionable. If they come back, then I'm probably not going to be targeting Harris. But if they are out, Harris will get more shots offensively, and he'll play a little bit more minutes. So I do like him at the mid-range. Also like Will Barton for just $1 less. Everybody was on Barton Saturday against Houston. and he let everybody down. He only put up 18 fantasy points in 33 minutes. I definitely think he can bounce back today. But like I said, be sure to take note of these injuries. If Wilson Chandler and Gallinari come back for this game, then I'm probably not going to be targeting Barton. He's really going to take a hit if those guys come back. But if they continue to be out, then I do like Barton at only $20. I think he bounces back today and scores you at least 25 fantasy points. So I like him at the mid-range. And if you need some value at the shooting guard position, I do like J.J. Redick against the Knicks. The Knicks really struggled defensively against the shooting guard, and Redick is very cheap on Yahoo at only $12. With the way Redick has been playing lately, I think he is very underpriced. In his last 5 games, he's put up 21, 19, 23, 34, and 20 fantasy points. With that price tag, he only has to get you about 20 to 25 fantasy points to pay that off. And he can definitely do that given this matchup against the Knicks. Like I said, they really struggled defensively against the shooting guard. So if you need some value at the shooting guard position, I do like J.J. Redick. I think he is in play. Also at the minimum price, I do like Joe Ingles against Indiana. Rodney Hood and Derek Favors have both been out lately for the Jazz. The Jazz have moved him into the starting lineup, and he's been playing very heavy minutes. His last 2 games, he's played 35 minutes in both of those games and put up 21 and 23 fantasy points. So if Rodney Hood and Derek Favors both continue to be out for the Jazz, I do like Joe Ingles at the minimum price. He gets a really good matchup against the Pacers. They really struggle against the shooting guard. And with that cheap price tag, he only has to get you about 20 fantasy points to pay that off. And he can definitely do that in this matchup. So I do like Joe Ingles on the cheaper end if Rodney Hood and Derek Favors are both out for this game. But yeah, that's pretty much it for shooting guard. Let's go ahead and move on to small forward. All right, your top small forward on the slate is Paul George. He gets a pretty bad matchup against the Jazz. They're really good defensively, and they play at a very slow pace. And I'm not a big fan of Paul George's price tag either at $38. I think he's really expensive for this matchup. So I'm not going to be paying up for him on this slate. For $1 cheaper, you got Carmelo against the Clippers. I'm probably not going to be playing Melo on the slate either. I think $37 is a little bit too expensive for him. And this isn't a great matchup either. The Clippers are pretty solid against the small forward. And Bob Mute is a pretty good defender. So I'm not going to be on Melo on the slate. I think he's a little bit too expensive for this matchup. For $2 less, you got Gordon Hayward against Indiana. I do like this matchup for Hayward. Indiana's not that good defensively against a small forward, but I think Hayward's a little bit expensive at $35. He hasn't been paying off that price lately. He's only hit value in 2 of his last 5 games. And with that price tag, he has to get you close to 40 fantasy points to be worth the play. So I'm probably not going to be targeting Hayward on this slate. I think he's a little bit too expensive, specifically on Yahoo. I'm not sure what his price is on other sites, but I won't be playing him on Yahoo at that price tag. I think he's a little bit too expensive. At the mid-range, I do like Robert Covington against Orlando. Orlando really struggles defensively against the small forward. And Covington's pretty cheap on Yahoo at only $27. He only has to get you about 30 fantasy points to return value on that salary. And he can definitely do that in this matchup. So I do like Covington at the mid-range. He's been very consistent as of late, and he's been playing pretty heavy minutes as well. So if you need a mid-range small forward on the slate, I do like Rocco. I think he is in play. I also like Jae Crowder against Washington. If Isaiah Thomas continues to be out for this game, then Crowder's really going to have to step up. In the 2 games that Thomas was out, Crowder's put up 42 and 29 fantasy points, and he's played 35 minutes in both of those games. So if Isaiah Thomas continues to be out, then I really like Jae Crowder at the mid-range. If Thomas does not play, then he's probably going to be the small forward that I target on this slate. He should have to take a little bit more shots, do a little bit more offensively, and he'll see a little uptick in minutes as well. So I do like Jae Crowder at the mid-range if IT does not play. And if you need some value at small forward, I do like Juancho Hernangomez. If Wilson Chandler and Gallinari do not come back for this game, then Hernangomez should continue to get the start. In the 2 games that he started, he's played 25 and 28 minutes and put up 18 and 25 fantasy points. At the minimum price on Yahoo, he only has to get you about 20 fantasy points to return value. And he can definitely do that in an up-and-pace matchup against the Rockets. So if Chandler and Gallinari are out and they don't come back for this game, I do like Hernangomez on the cheaper end. He's a pretty solid value play if they continue to be out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for small forward. Let's go ahead and move on to power forward. All right, your top power forward on this slate is Blake Griffin. He gets a really good matchup against the Knicks. They really struggle defensively against the power forward. I'm not a big fan of Blake's price tag, though, at $43. I think that's a little bit too expensive. I'm not sure what his price tag is on other sites. If he's cheap on other sites, then I really like him. But on Yahoo, I'm not going to be playing him at $43. I think it's unlikely that he pays that off. He has to get almost 45 to 50 to pay off that price. I don't think it's likely that he does that. So I'm not going to be playing Blake specifically on Yahoo. Draymond against OKC. I really like this matchup for Draymond. OKC is not good defensively against the power forward, but Draymond's price has risen to $40, which is a little expensive for him. He has to get close to 40 to 45 fantasy points to pay off that price tag. I don't think it's very likely that Draymond does that, so I probably won't be playing him either on Yahoo. I think him and Blake are both a little bit overpriced. But if their price is cheaper on other sites, then I like them there, but won't be playing them on Yahoo. I think they're too expensive. Dario Saric against Orlando. I like this matchup for Sarge, but that price tag at $34 is a little bit too expensive for me. And although Sarge has been playing very well lately, I don't think I'm going to be playing him at $34. I think that's way too expensive for him. I think there are some power forwards at the cheaper end that you're going to want to target. So I'm not going to be on Sarge. I don't want to pay that price for him. I think he's too expensive. At the mid-range, I do like Marvin Williams against Atlanta. Paul Millsap is not going to be playing for this game, so Marvin will most likely be guarded by Ersan Ilyasova. And Ilyasova is not a good defender. I'm not a big fan of Marvin's price tag at $24, but he's been playing very well lately. In his last 5 games, he's put up 45, 47, 44, 16, and 35 fantasy points. With that $24 price tag, he has to get you about 30 fantasy points to pay that off. And he can definitely do that. He's been playing very well lately, like I said. So I do like Marvin at the mid-range. I think he is definitely in play. Also like Aaron Gordon against the Sixers. The Sixers really struggled defensively against the power forward. And AG's been playing very well as of late. He's been pretty consistent. In his last 5 games, he's put up 24, 26, 26, 10, and 30 fantasy points. So I really like AG at the mid-range as well. He's pretty cheap, only $22. He only has to get about 25 to 30 to pay that price tag off, and he can definitely do that against the Sixers. Like I said, they really struggle against the power forward. So I do like AG at the mid-range. I think he is in play. And then on the cheaper end, I really like Ersan Ilyasova against Charlotte. With Paul Millsap out for this game, Ilyasova should get the start. And Millsap missed March 18th against Portland, and Ilyasova started, and he put up 36 fantasy points in 27 minutes. And he gets another good matchup against Charlotte. They really struggle against the power forward. So I also really like Ersan on the cheaper end on this slate. At only $16, he shouldn't have a problem paying off that price tag. He should get the start, and he should play at least 25 to 30 minutes. So I do like Ersan. If you need some value at the power forward position, he definitely would be a guy I target for value. And one more value guy I like is Jason Smith against Boston. Smith has been starting in place of Markieff Morris. In the 2 games that he started for Markieff, he's played 37 and 27 minutes and put up 36 and 22 fantasy points. At the minimum price on Yahoo, he only has to get about 20 fantasy points to pay off his price tag. And if he gets the start for Markieff, I really like him in this matchup. Boston really struggles defensively against the power forward. So I definitely think Jason Smith is a guy you want to target if Markieff Morris does not play. Smith should get the start. He should play at least 25 minutes, and he can easily pay off his $10 price tag. So I do like him on the cheaper end. And yeah, that's pretty much it for power forward. Let's go ahead and move on to center. All right, your top center on this slate is Nikola Jokic. He gets a really good matchup against Houston. They're really bad defensively against the center. Most people probably aren't going to be playing Jokic on this slate because when these 2 teams just played March 18th, Jokic only played 21 minutes and put up 27 fantasy points. But he did get into foul trouble in that game. I definitely think he bounces back today, gets you at least 45 fantasy points. So if you want to pay up for center, Jokic is definitely in play. I really like him for tournaments. I feel like people aren't going to play him because he burned everybody on Saturday. So he's definitely worth a look in tournaments. He'll probably be low-owned, and you know he has crazy upside. So I do like Jokic if you want to pay up a center. Also like Nikola Vucevic against the Sixers. Ever since the Sixers lost Joel Embiid, they've really struggled to defend the center. And Vuce has been playing out of his mind lately. His last 5 games, he's put up 45, 39, 47, 27, and 45 fantasy points. He is way underpriced on Yahoo at only $30. So he is definitely worth a look at the center position. I definitely think he should be a guy you target. He should absolutely be able to dominate the Sixers. Like I said, they've really been struggling to guard the center. So I definitely like Vucevic if you want to pay up. Also at that same price tag, I do like Rudy Gobert against Indiana. Gobert has also been playing very well as of late. In his last 5 games, he's put up 38, 28, 34, 50, and 39 fantasy points. He's been very consistent. So Gobert is definitely worth a look as well at that same price tag. If I was choosing between the 2, I'd probably go with Gobert for cash games. Gobert is just a guy you can rely on for cash. He's so consistent. But both of them have 50-point upside in their matchups. So I definitely like both of them. They're both in play. At the mid-range, I like DeAndre Jordan against the Knicks as well. DJ is very cheap on Yahoo at only $27. He only has to get about 30 fantasy points to return value on that price tag. And he can definitely do that against the Knicks. They really struggle to defend the center. So if you not want to pay up and you need a guy at the mid-range, DJ is definitely in play. He shouldn't have a problem paying off his cheap price tag. Also like Al Horford against Washington. Horford's also had to step up with Isaiah Thomas out. And he's been playing very well as of late as well. In his last 5 games, he's put up 21, 32, 46, 39, and 51 fantasy points. And he gets a really good matchup against Washington. They really struggle to defend the center. So I really like Al Horford at the mid-range as well, especially if Isaiah Thomas does not come back for this game. Horford's really going to have to step up and do a lot more offensively. So he is definitely worth a look at the mid-range. And if you need some cheaper centers, I do like Marcin Gortat against Boston. Boston really struggles to rebound. They're one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. And Gortat is a very good rebounder. I think he can get you at least 10 rebounds in this matchup. And if he can get the points, he can definitely pay off his price tag. I like Gortat to get a double-double in this matchup. So he is definitely worth a look on the cheaper end. Like I said, Boston really struggles to rebound, and Gortat's a pretty solid rebounder. So I like him on the cheaper end. He is definitely in play. For $2 cheaper, I also really like Mason Plumlee against Houston. With Gallinari and Chandler out of the lineup, Plumlee has been starting, and he's been playing very well as of late. In his last 5 games, he's put up 21, 34, 35, 36, and 32 fantasy points. And he is very cheap on Yahoo at only $17. He only has to get about 25 fantasy points to return value on that salary. And he's been doing that lately, so if you need a center on the cheaper end, Mason Plumlee should definitely be a guy you target. Especially if Gallinari and Chandler do not come back for this game, then Plumlee should continue to start, and he'll play at least 30 minutes. So I definitely like him if those 2 guys do not come back. And one more cheap center I like, I do like Richaun Holmes against Orlando. Jahlil Okafor has been out lately, and Holmes has been getting the start. And he's been playing very well as of late. On his last 5 games, he's put up 34, 24, 29, 30, and 35 fantasy points. He is way underpriced on Yahoo at only $14 for the way he's been playing. He only has to get about 20 to 25 fantasy points to return value on that salary. And like I said, he's been doing that lately. So if Jahlil Okafor continues to be out and Holmes gets a start, he can definitely pay off his cheap price tag against Orlando. They really struggle to defend the center. So I definitely like Richaun Holmes. If Okafor does not play, he's worth a look if you need some value at the center position. But yeah, that's pretty much it for center, guys. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my starting 5. Alright guys, so this is my starting 5 for today's slate on Monday, March 20th. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GO or leave a comment on this video and I'll be sure to answer your question. If you guys want my full updated lineup before lock, then follow me on Twitter and send me a message and I'll be sure to get you a lineup. Whether you play on Yahoo, FanDuel, or DraftKings, I give out lineups for those 3 sites. But yeah, thanks you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. If you never want to miss out on a video, then please be sure to click the bell icon next to my YouTube name, and you'll get a notification every time I upload. So if you never want to miss out on a video, then please be sure to do that. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video. Good luck.